Although our story takes place on October 13th, 2010, we have to go back to August 5th of that same year. Deep beneath the Atacama Desert in northern Chile, 33 miners descended into the San José copper and gold mine for what they thought would be an ordinary day of work. By the end of that day, they would be trapped nearly 2,300 feet underground, cut off from the world, and thrust into what would become one of the most dramatic rescue operations in history. The collapse occurred around lunchtime. A massive slab of rock, estimated to weigh around 700,000 tons, broke free from the mountain and crashed through the mine shaft. The sound was probably deafening, a thunderous roar that echoed through the tunnels as the mine literally fell onto itself. When the dust settled, the 33 men found themselves sealed in a refuge area near the bottom of the mine, with thousands of tons of rock between them and the surface. Above ground, chaos erupted. Families rushed to the mine site, desperate for any news of their loved ones. The initial outlook was grim. Rescue workers struggled to even assess the damage, let alone plan a rescue. The mine owners, a small company with limited resources, were just totally overwhelmed. Many mining experts believe the men couldn't have possibly survived. Even if they found shelter, they'd be running out of air, water, and food within days. But the 33 miners, they were alive. Led by shift supervisor Louis Urzula. But the 33 miners were alive. They were led by their shift supervisor and united by the natural leadership of one Mario Sepulveda. The men made a critical decision in those first terrifying hours. They would ration their supplies, maintain discipline, and hold on to hope. They had 2 days' worth of food, meant for a few men, that now had to sustain 33 of them. They divided tuna fish into teaspoons. They shared sips of milk, and each man received a morsel of food every 48 hours. They drank from the contaminated water trickling through the rocks. Down in what they called the refuge, the temperature hovered around 95 degrees Fahrenheit with a humidity of nearly 100%. The men, they stripped down to their underwear. They organized themselves into teams, assigning roles and responsibilities. Some monitored the stability of the shelter. Others searched desperately for escape routes, though every path led to collapsed tunnels and impassable walls of rock. They created a democracy in the darkness, voting on decisions, sharing their fears and their faith. Above the rescue effort was gaining momentum. The Chilean government made a pivotal decision. They would spare no expense. The world's leading mine designers were drilling experts were summoned to Chile. NASA sent specialists who understood survival in confined spaces. The Chilean Navy contributed submarine medical experts. A tent city sprouted at the mine entrance as the families set up a vigil called Camp Hope. For 17 agonizing days, rescuers drilled exploratory holes, trying to find the refuge where the miners might have sheltered. They used sophisticated underground penetrating technology, old mine maps, and basically informed guesses. Each drill probe that came back empty was a devastating blow to the families waiting at Camp Hope. By late August, some officials were privately losing hope. Perhaps the miners had never made it to the refuge. Perhaps they'd run out of air weeks ago. Then, on August 22nd, the 17th day, came the miracle. When the rescuers pulled up a drill bit from a probe hole, they found it painted with red paint and a note attached. The words scrawled on the paper sent shockwaves of joy through the camp and the world. It said, "We are all well in the refuge, the 33." All 33 men were alive. The celebration was immediate and overwhelming. Families wept, strangers embraced, and Chile erupted in joy. But the euphoria was tempered by a sobering reality. The men were alive, yes, but they were still trapped over 2,000 feet below ground, and no one had ever been rescued from such depth before. The real challenge was just beginning. The rescue plan had to be developed from scratch. Engineers proposed drilling a rescue shaft wide enough to pull the miners out, but this would take months. Could the men survive that long? Medical experts were consulted. The miners would need food, water, medicine, and psychological support. A narrow supply tube, just 6 inches wide, was threaded down to them. Through this lifeline flowed sustenance and hope. Specifically designed high-protein drinks, nutrients, letters from loved ones, and eventually fiber optic cameras so rescuers could see the conditions below. The images that came back shocked the rescue team. The men had lost dramatic amounts of weight, some dropping 20 or 30 pounds from their already lean frames. They looked like ghosts in the camera's light, but their spirits, against all odds, remained surprisingly strong. They had maintained their organization and discipline. They'd survived on virtually nothing for more than 2 weeks and held the group together. 3 separate drilling plans, named Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C, were initiated simultaneously. Each used different technologies, different approaches, and different theories about the fastest way through the rock. It was a race against time, geology, and the psychological limits of the human endurance. The drills ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The sound of drilling became the constant soundtrack of Camp Hope. Below the ground, the miners began receiving better supplies. Hot meals were compressed and sent down through the tubes. They received clean clothes, medicine, video games, and even a projector to watch movies. Psychologists maintained regular contact through a phone line, monitoring mental health. The men established routines, exercising, praying, and playing games. They even requested and received cigarettes and alcohol, though doctors limited both strictly. Most importantly, they maintained their unity. In 69 days underground, trapped in conditions that would drive most people insane, there wasn't a single serious fight amongst them. By early October, Plan B's drill, operating by a company that specialized in large diameter drilling, had won the race. It broke through into the refuge on October 9th, creating a single shaft just over 2 feet in diameter. Now came the challenging part, designing a rescue capsule that would safely bring up the men 2,000 feet through unstable rock and the shaft. The capsule, nicknamed Phoenix, looked like something from a science fiction movie. It was a steel torpedo, 13 feet long and just barely wide enough for a single man to stand inside. It had oxygen supplies, communication systems, and escape wheels in case it got stuck. The first test runs with rescue workers revealed problems. The capsule got snagged on protruding rocks. Adjustments were made, more tests, time was running out. The rock walls were unstable, threatening to collapse and close the escape shaft forever. Finally, on October 12, 2010, everything was ready. The plan was meticulous. A rescue worker would go down first to prepare the miners. Then the miners would come up one at a time, with a rescue worker descending after every few miners to check on those still waiting. The sickest and most vulnerable would be the first, followed by those best equipped to handle problems if they arose, and finally, ship supervisor would be the last man out. As the captain, he goes down with the ship. As midnight approached and October 13th began, an experienced mine worker entered the Phoenix capsule. The winch engaged, and he descended into the earth. 16 minutes later, he reached the bottom. The rescue had begun. At 12:11 a.m. on October 13th, Forlicio Avalos became the first miner to enter the capsule. His journey to the surface took about 15 minutes. As the capsule emerged from the shaft, a roar went up at Camp Hope. The president of Chile was there, embracing him. Avalos was thin, wearing dark glasses to protect his eyes that had spent nearly 69 days in dim light. But he was alive, and he was smiling. One by one, through the Chilean night and into the next day, the miners emerged. Each rescue took about an hour when you factored in the descent and ascent times. The second man came out, dancing and hugging everyone. He pulled rocks from his pocket, gave souvenirs from the depths, and distributed them like gifts. The world was watching. Over 1 billion people had tuned in to witness this triumph of human resilience and engineering expertise. Each miner has his own moment. Some emerged to find new babies born while they were trapped. Others reunited with aging parents who feared they'd never see their sons again. The rescued miners were immediately given medical checks, fitted with sunglasses, and reunited briefly with family before being whisked to the hospital for observation. The operation continued through the day and into the evening. As October 13th wore on, the tension actually increased. The shaft was becoming less stable with each trip. But the Phoenix capsule held. The rescuers held. The plan held. Finally, at 9:55 p.m., 22 hours after the operation began, the shift supervisor, who had led his men through 69 days of darkness, stepped into the capsule. He was the 33rd and final miner. When he emerged 16 minutes later, the celebration was incredible. All 33 men were out. All 33 were alive. Against every odd, against expert predictions, they had survived. The president of Chile greeted the final miner with tears in his eyes, and together they saluted the rescuers who made the impossible possible. The rescue of the 33 Chilean miners stands out as a testament to human endurance, ingenuity, and solidarity. It showed the world what becomes possible when people refuse to give up on each other, and when nations commit their resources to saving lives, and when ordinary men face extraordinary circumstances and choose hope over despair. October 13th, 2010 became a day when the world watched darkness give way to light, when 33 men who'd been given up for dead emerged from the earth, and where we're all reminded that sometimes, just sometimes, miracles do happen. Thanks for watching today, and if you like this story, consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel, the Daily Pastcast, and come back every day for another in-depth story of what happened on this day in history. We'll see you tomorrow on October 14th.